Tom Besselman. I was born on Fort Dix. I'm an Army brat. My dad was from Pittsburgh, and my mom was from Tokyo, and they met when he went to fight the war in Korea and got wounded and ended up in the hospital in Japan. I was born 1960 on Fort Dix, and we lived there maybe a year, and then Dad was stationed in Germany for 3 years. Then we came back to Fort Dix, lived there a couple more years, and then in 1966 we moved to Browns Mills, and I've been here ever since. That's my short story about my life. I came here when I was 5, so I started school at the Little Red Schoolhouse in town, and then went to Pemberton school system all the way through high school. I graduated in 1979, and after that I started doing construction work around town, which expanded all the way to Philadelphia. But my interest in history, I've always been interested in history, but like one year I was laid off from work, so I started going to the library, and I found the New Jersey section in the library, and I just started looking at books there and reading about Browns Mills history, and then I sort of expanded from there. It's been a good 30, 40 years I've been just reading anything about this area, then the Pines, New Jersey, U.S. history. Yeah, it'll expand, but the beginning was just stuff about Browns Mills. I became curious and started looking for these places that I read about. Well, here's the church. I was involved with the Historic Trust first, which is at the train station in Pemberton. And, well, I think the recording secretary was Adrian Leonard, who may have been president of the BMIA at the time. So she asked me to come join, and I went then, I joined, and I've been helping them out ever since. A forum called njpinebarrens.com. I first started looking on there for historical information, and there was also guys on there that studied botany and other geology, I guess it was, and so I just started reading stuff that they put and looking at their pictures, and eventually I started just looking at plants around where I lived, and then a friend of mine suggested doing the PPA's plant course, which really taught me a lot. The environmental stuff just went hand in hand with all that. So I guess one thing just leads to another. And all the old paperwork that we're getting at the Historic Trust, it may have been around in the 60s. But I started around the same time as everything else, around 09, 2010. And I hope we're doing stuff to help out. That's the reason for doing it, I guess. Everything. About the same time as everything else. I did like a cleanup back behind the village, and I met Mark Satarsky, and we knew of each other, but we never hung out or anything. And then he said, "Hey, we do volunteer work here, first Saturday of every month. Come on out." And I just started doing it, and through all the stuff there, I eventually got on the board of trustees, and Actually, a couple, uh, like the president, vice president positions and things like that. This is where we're meeting John.
I'm John Nallinger, a longtime resident of Browns Mills. Allison asked me to talk about some of the history of Browns Mills. And I was born in Philadelphia, so I'm not considered a piney. I moved down here full time my freshman year of high school, 1960. And we had a summer house prior to that. So we would come down here, and now we're in Reflections Park in Browns Mills. So the one picture is right here, the Maxes. And what we did when we were young children here, kids, we would go ice skating here. And the nice thing about Maxes, they would let you go in the store with your skates on to get hot chocolate or whatever and everything, and it was real nice. And right over there in the corner of this Reflections Park by the lake, we had a bonfire. Whenever we went skating, the older teenagers would have a bonfire, and it was real nice. And back then, the lake would freeze, and I lived halfway up the lake on Hydrangea, and we would skate all the way down from Hydrangea Street to here to go ice skating. It was real nice night, to do that. And across the street is Browns Mills Supply Company, and that was here forever. That's one of the original businesses in the town. And a funny story here, we didn't have running water when we first moved here. It was like a summer bungalow, and we didn't have running water. And they had a spigot there, and you brought your jugs and everything, and you filled up with water, and that's how we had our water. Another great story about them is when my uncle and dad decided to build a house, a permanent house here. They were union carpenters in Philadelphia, and they would come down here and they would work on the weekends to build a house and stuff. They would call up during the week and they would order materials, and Hobarts would deliver the materials and put them on the front lawn, and they would be there when my uncle and dad, and he would bring other men down that worked with him in Philly. My uncle and dad worked for Hyman Corman, which was a big builder out of Philadelphia. They worked in Willow Grove and all around the city of Philadelphia. It was one of the longest jobs in the union. In the union, it's hard to stay at one job, but for over 16 years, they worked for Hyman Corman in Philadelphia. So the thing about the story is today, unfortunately, if you left lumber on the front lawn of your house here, it would be gone by the time, the next day comes. And a lot of times, another funny story was that if it rained or something, they would go to the tap room and they would shoot pool and get drinking and everything. And my uncle and dad would forget to go and come back here to pay the bill. So they would call on Monday and say, hey, we got working and stuff and we forgot to pay. And they said, that's fine. What do you need for next weekend? And they would have the lumber there. It was a beautiful thing. And I wound up for all my life dealing with them because of that. I thought that was a nice thing that they had taken care of the family and everything. Another picture here, right across the street, I was telling Allison and Tom about earlier, was this bicycle rendezvous. And this was before my time. I don't remember this, but I remember they had a flood in the 30s that people talked about, and I think that kind of took that out. And here's another old picture of right where we are. There was an ice cream stand on both ends of this dam, small buildings, and it just shows you how much of the tourists in the summertime, how many people come here to go swimming and enjoy the recreation in the area. To support 2 ice cream stands, one on each end of the dam. And right behind that is the doctor's. You see the doctor's office? That's that's all brand new, but that's where the Lakeview Inn was. And it was this picture I really like because they have kegs of beer on the roof as far as like advertisement to show it. And in this building, and I never understood it, different people, like some people like rock and roll. Like I liked rock and roll, and it was country western music. And this Lakeview Inn was mostly country western. So I didn't go in there a whole lot because I liked rock and roll. But on the wall, there was a mural in here of the train station at Niagara Falls. And why that was there all the years I never knew, and that's a nice trivia question if one of the people listening to this knows the answer of why that mural was on the wall. But the whole time until they tore it down, that mural was on the wall. And it was a life-size mural. It was, a big mural. It was nice. Okay, and I have a picture. I don't know where I can find it today, but they used to swim. The soldiers used to come to the island, and they would swim, recreational swim, and it was called Soldiers Island. And there was like a lot of the older buildings when Mr. George owned it. You could tell that they were government type buildings, that they had been old barracks and stuff before he built his house and everything. But we always knew it as, and that was before my time now. That was like World War I. After that type in there was way back. I don't remember any soldiers being there. It was always Loveladies Island, and that's what they called it, but it goes way back to Soldiers Island. All right, Tom, these pictures here, this is the dam, this is the pizza house that he's talking about, that they was on the dam. And this is in the 50s. And this was a great thing. And as far as the perspective of me, we had what they call summer girls. The girls come down here in the summer from Philadelphia, and we would, there was like dances, and there was swimming and all that kind of stuff. And on Sunday night, we would all go to the pizza house around 5, 6 o'clock at night, and we would all have a big dinner, and the summer girls would go home. Browns Mills was so much of a resort then that in the September, like October now, you could tell the difference from all the people that left and went back to Philly. That's how it was that noticeable that it was funny. It was like down seaside and places like that. They close up in the winter, and that's what happened. That's what happened here. There was a lot of people left.
It was closer than going all the way to the ocean.
Yeah.
And you had a nice place to swim.
Yeah. It was all good. All right. This here restaurant, Eisenlohr's, all right, that's the Belly Busters right on the other side of the dam. All right. And we're gonna walk down the Sycamore Hall, and that there is that was had a lot of history. That there was a sanitarium at one time. It was apartments, and it was also a gift shop. And the funny story about that, my wife is an Army brat, and she lived over here off of Junction Road. And as a little girl, she was only allowed down this far of town, so she had never gone to Sycamore Hall. But there was a little place on the dam that sold candy. I lived down the lake farther, and I was only allowed to go to Sycamore Hall. I wasn't allowed to cross Lakehurst Road. So we both had different places that we, as young kids, got candy and stuff. And they sold fishing licenses there at Sycamore Hall. And they believed back then that people should sleep outside. So there's other buildings that I can show you if we do this again, we go farther into town, where there was one building that was just all nurses that lived in there. It was Kim's Apartments, was all nurses at one time. And And then there's other ones, the White House and everything, where people slept on balconies and because of the cool air. And they believe that that was helped to cure that the pine air, because that was a big deal. The medicinal, is that the word?
Yeah.
For pine air. All right, now we're going to walk now, or
Is that Pat the ice cream or is that Pat just for the Christmas tree?
that's the pads for the Christmas tree.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a
They
fresh.
had to make it bigger. He added a couple sections, the old mayor.
Yeah.
We're going to walk across the dam, and we're going to talk about some of the stuff that was on the dam. There was a Lakeview Inn right here where the doctor's office is. And as you get farther down, there was Rosie and Alex. It was a little store. They had the pizza place, Lakeview, and they also had the police station, was here when I was a young man. They had and Skippy Clayton was a dispatcher. He was a famous dispatcher. He knew everybody, so whenever they called for an emergency, he would be able to tell the police and the fire company where to go. Over here we have Loveladies Island. We talked about that a little bit earlier. On the other side of the dam here, we have Sycamore Hall, which is a famous building in Browns Mills. A couple of sisters had it for a lot of years, and they had a store in there. They sold fishing licenses and candy, stuff like that. They had a shoe department and clothes and all back in the day. There was a diving board when I was a young man. There was a diving board over here, and it was in real bad shape. And I was always afraid that I never dove off it or anything because it was in such bad shape. And in the early 60s, it wound up, they took it down. When was the dam built, the new one, do you know?
Was it the 90s or?
I can't remember.
Yeah. When was one before that built?
Oh, I don't know.
Because the lake used to be smaller before that.
Yeah, way back.
Yeah, about half the size of it.
Up at the point here at the corner where the road goes off, there was an auditorium. And that auditorium was moved down behind, there was an Exxon station behind Domino's Pizza here, and that was back in there. And that was before my time too. They say the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts used to use the auditorium a lot. They had dances there.
Were there a movie theater also?
Something like that, I heard, yep. And other people have businesses all around that. Lou's Restaurant at one time was at the auditorium. And there was a guy that had a little electronic place, I heard. But that was before my time. That was in the late 50s. Where Domino's Pizza is across the street, that was an Exxon station when I was younger.
The tire place when I was younger.
Oh yeah, there you go, yep.
Highway Tire. Yeah.
Highway Tire, yep. I forgot about that. And where Belly Busters is here, that was Ruth's Restaurant when I was a kid.
And then your picture was Eisenlohr's?
Yeah, that was way back. That was even before Ruth.
Okay.
That was Eisenlohr's, yeah. As we're looking across the street, the property on the left becomes the Pig and Whistle Inn. And that, where Wawa is and everything, that is all belonged to the Pig and Whistle Inn. And that was a mammoth building for this area. It was as big as Sycamore Hall here. And I was lucky enough to be a bartender there for a few years at the Pig and Whistle. And it was a lot of interesting things went on
I'm sure.
in there back in the 60s.
You want to cross over and it'll probably be a little quieter.
Down this road here was the Brookside Inn. And that's where I met my wife. And she tried to hook me up with her girlfriend. And that didn't work. But all this property here was all Pig and Whistle Inn when I was younger. And they had really great bands. People from Philadelphia and Bristol and all over would come on the weekends to hear these bands. And in the bar, there was 3 bartenders, and it was really a big bar. And on weekends, it would get 3 deep with people. There were so many people. The bands were that good, and people come from all over to listen to them, you know.
Was it, could you stay overnight there, or was it just a bar and restaurant? Or?
Prior to me working there years and years ago, that it was a hotel. In fact, I got real nice pictures of the lobby and everything where you checked in, and it was real fancy. And again, people come as far as New York and everything to spend the time in the pines and go swimming in the cedar water. It was a beautiful thing. There's a story, and I wish I could tell you more of the detail about it, but a famous actress had some kind of rendezvous with somebody here one time at the Pig and Whistle, and that made the news. It went all the way up to New York. It got in the newspapers and everything. I got an article about it. I'll have to find her name. That is a giant tree, isn't it?
Yeah.
A sad story, I just had one half the size of this taken out of my yard. $2,000. Woo!
Yeah.
Boy, that hurt. Man, that hurt.
And there were more sycamores here. There was a sycamore on the other side there too. Recently got taken down.
Okay.
They said, well, they get diseased, right? And Hobart's lived right over there.
Yeah, right in the middle. Yep, John and Sharon lived there, yep. Around the corner, right around the corner is the White House.
Yeah, you
and
can see the roof.
That's been here for a lot of years. And they rent them rooms out now and everything. But I have some really neat pictures of the people on the porches of that. The War Memorial was always here. They had a cannon, and the young people used to take the cannon and down the hill in front and put it in front of the police station on mischief night and stuff.
Lily A. Browning house, circa 1891.
Wow.
Yeah. My friend lived here.
Oh, wow. This is White House?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably in Marie Reynolds' book.
That was on the cover?
No, the cover was like a couple of guys and a dog, right? Sitting on a porch.
What are you talking about?
Marie Reynolds' book.
Marie's book?
Yeah.
The picture that I think is on the first book she did was right down there between Rosie and Alex
Okay.
and the thing. They're eating ice cream and all.
Yeah.
People on the porch here. This one here, the ladies were all dressed up and everything, and there's rocking chairs and everything.
Yeah, it had a big open porch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. After the auditorium got moved down the hill, this was an Arco station, and in between these two buildings here was Flavorland, and that's where we hung out as young guys and everything, girls. We would hang out there, and right across the street again was all the Pig and Whistle and they had a knee wall around the property, and we used to sit on the wall. And all the people like going down the shore on the weekends would ride by the girls, and we'd all wave to them and everything. It was funny, but we did that for years.
What was Flavorland?
That was like milkshakes and cheesesteaks
okay.
and things like that. In fact, I just thought of a funny story the other day. The people called the Hanleys come down and bought this thing, and they had a real pretty daughter, right? So I wanted to take out this daughter and everything, go out with this daughter. So I wound up taking her out, I think, one time and everything. We had a nice time, but you know, it just wasn't going to work out. Well, here, she wound up dating Cardin, the guy who owned Cardin Chevrolet. So he would come down a weekend and pick her up in a limousine. So these guys, I'd be sitting on the wall and they'd say, "Hey, John, they're coming down to get your girl." and it was funny. And they really, they wouldn't let me forget that for a long time. Every time the limousine went through town, they'd say, "Oh, they're coming to get your girl, John." All right, let's go. That's enough. My wife will say, "What the hell kind of story was that?"
Oh, you didn't tell the hoagie story, though.
She had a great koi pond back here.
Oh, really?
Sharon,
Yeah.
man, they were really nice.
I like the detail at the top of the chimney. It's like Amityville.
Yeah, our friends have one of those houses.
They had the best sandwiches back there. You ever go to Brookside?
No, it was
Oh,
before
boy.
my time.
They had a sign inside there. "We don't make sandwiches, we construct them." And man, and they had